Hey everyone, this is Poohead189, and today I'm going to be talking about a point I brought up on the video I made for the ranking system of powers in the Android saga, so it was my power level video. As I expected, some of you found it hard to believe that the humans could surpass full power Frieza in such a short amount of time. And you know what? I get it. I completely get it. It seems really unlikely if you approach it with a certain mode of thinking. But that was my problem as well. The thing is, I had preconceived notions on a lot of things that kept me from making the conclusion they could be that strong. Now, before I get into it, I want to say that yes, of course, obviously Toriyama decides something on a split-second decision and we need to reckon with that. It's extremely likely the power scaling just was not really thought out. However, that is not a good enough answer because one, even if Toriyama's decision is a relatively safe assumption, it's still just an assumption. And two, we still need to think in terms of the universe at large. But let's talk about it. So our main focus will be the strength of Tien, Yamcha, and Krillin in the Android and Cell sagas, which means the majority of our discussion will be on the previous sagas and how they could coalesce into their increase in strength. I will also not be including Chaozu most of the time because he did not show up to fight the androids. Now, the last time we really got the power levels of Tien and Yamcha, they were fighting the Cybermen and the Saiyans in the Saiyan saga. Tien's power was around 1,830, and Yamcha's was 1,480. Krillin's power level was between them, around 1,770. However, we do get more Krillin readings later on during the Namek arc, where he received Guru's potential unlock. During his fight with Guldo, he had a power level of 13,000, and then later on when he helped them fight Frieza, his power went up to 75,000. And that is the last time we heard anything about any of their power levels, though of course, it has been nearly 5 years from the latter half of the Saiyan arc to the Android saga, and so they obviously had opportunities to get stronger, even exponentially so. However, without a transformation, is it possible for them to reach Final Form Frieza's 100% power in 5 years? Many would say no, but I have to disagree. The problem, as I stated earlier, is on fans' assumptions on how much one can get from certain types of training and how strong each fighter was when Trunks arrived and killed Mecha Frieza. Now, let's start with Tien and Yamcha. After their deaths in the Saiyan saga, both were allowed to keep their bodies and ascend to the other world to travel Snake Way and train with King Kai, just like Goku. Now, when Goku ran across Snake Way, it took him 177 days to reach King Kai. In that time, he got a bit stronger from the exertion, so it's difficult to say how strong he was when he reached King Kai's planet. He then trained with King Kai for 158 days, and both of these things together increased his power from 416 to over 8,000, which is around a 19 times increase in strength within 1 year, about. Now, this math, if we did it with, say, Tien, would mean Tien's power would grow to around 34,770 in about a year. That's a huge leap, but not a huge enough leap for us to think that he could reach Frieza's final form. And even if they just added that 4 more times, that would still not even reach Frieza's first form power level. However, if this is the only math that you do, you're falling for the trap in logic most people do, because it makes 2 assumptions. One, that Tien would have had the same multiplier in training as Goku, which was not the case with either Korin or Kami's training. And 2, that the multiplier one gets from training on King Kai's planet would be remotely similar between any different people, regardless of earlier training. When King Kai describes his training to Goku, he says that training on his planet for the time allotted that Goku has is the same thing as training on Earth for thousands of years. And so I have to ask you, If you think Tien or Yamcha could not reach Frieza's power level after, say, 3,000 years of training, I think it's plausible. But let's come back to that a bit later. There's got to be more to it, right? Now, we go to Piccolo, who was there with them. Piccolo takes the same amount of time as Tien, Yamcha, and Chaozu traveling Snake Way for about a month, before arriving at King Kai's. Again, hard to say how much stronger Piccolo could have gotten from traveling Snake Way, but what we do know is that after running across Snake Way and being on King Kai's planet for a matter of a few short days, he arrives on Namek and finds Nail. Nail, who has a power level equaling or surpassing most members of the Ginyu Force at 42,000. And Nail himself commented on how amazing Piccolo's power was, meaning that Piccolo is likely as strong or stronger than Nail, and Piccolo also did not seem to think he would be useless against First Form Frieza, though he does state Frieza's power is very great. This all being before he fused with Nail, of course. Now let's think about that. Piccolo, who had a power of 3,500 in the Saiyan battle, had his battle power raised to above 42,000, and perhaps much greater than that, in about a month. And remember, if we think about the filler when the Ginyu Force arrived on King Kai's planet, and Tien, Yamcha, and Chaozu fought them off, and we remember that Toriyama was involved in the creation of that episode, that also provides some plausibility of them having power levels over 40,000 within just a few short days as well. And so let's go back to the Earthlings and their training earlier before that. Tien, Yamcha, Krillin, and Chaozu generally gained greater amounts of power quicker than Goku often did with the different masters. Goku's power going from 416 to over 8,000 was likely how strong Goku could have gotten if he merely trained on Earth for thousands of years at his power level of 416. However, the humans were not only much stronger when they arrived, and they not only stayed with King Kai longer, but often were able to gain more out of training anyway. And those 3 points, along with Piccolo's amazing power from such a short amount of time, means that their power growing exponentially is not looking very far-fetched any longer. Now, let's pose another question. When Trunks arrived to fight Mecha Frieza and King Cold, how strong do you think everyone was? At that point, it was 2 to 3 months shy of 2 years since the Frieza fight on Namek. Back on Namek, Piccolo's power level had been over 1 million, like maybe 1.5 million with his weights off and obviously fused with Nail. And Vegeta's power was slightly higher after his Zenkai before his death, because he could see some of Frieza's movements and could at least make Frieza surprised for a moment at his strength, meaning Final Form Frieza. So it was likely his power was close to 2 million, like slightly above or slightly below. Then almost 2 years pass, and they are likely stronger. And of course, Tien, Yamcha, Krillin, Gohan, and Chaozu showed up to help fight Frieza and King Cold. Initially, when I saw them arriving, I figured it was hard to fathom they could be much stronger than Captain Ginyu. However, due to the points I made earlier, I now realize that they could be far stronger. It's not out of the question for Tien to fight third form, perhaps even low-powered fourth form Frieza when he stepped down to fight, with Yamcha and Chaozu and Krillin not very far behind him. It does stand to reason that Piccolo and Vegeta are stronger to an extent, because when Goku arrives back on Earth, he does wonder if it was Vegeta or Piccolo who beat Frieza, and not anyone else. However, I don't think it's too far-fetched to think the Earthlings were not too far behind them. Now, Krillin's power is a bit of a stretch. He did have his potential unlocked, but unlike Gohan, who received a Zenkai during the Frieza fight, Krillin's power level seemingly capped at about 75,000, according to the Daizenshuu. However, while he is never shown as going to King Kai's, it is possible we just did not see it occur, or if he did anything else during his death, or even if Tien or Yamcha taught him some of King Kai's training techniques once they were all wished back to life. We really don't know. But we do know one thing. Chaozu arrived with Tien to help fight Mecha Frieza, as he and Tien had spent the longest time in the other world with King Kai. However, during the Android arc, Chaozu elected to not fight, as he was unable to keep up during the Earth training. Which means that Chaozu was not very far behind the other Earthlings during the Small Trunks arc, but he did lag behind in the 3-year time skip. Krillin, however, apparently kept up his training enough to arrive to help in both instances. Now, I also gave some points on my Android Saga power level video on how the humans could reach Frieza's level. Even if we took Goku's 19 times increase and chopped it up to just 7 times increase every year after Goku is wished back to fight Nappa and Vegeta, it would still make him above Frieza's final form strength by the time of the android's arrival. And as we know, androids 19 and 20 read Yamcha's power level and mistook him for Goku before they jumped him, based upon how high his power was. But let's do something else. Let's imagine Tien's power level when Mecha Frieza arrived as, let's say, 5 million. If he tripled his power each year until the androids arrived, meaning it would go from 5 million to 15 million to 45 million to 135 million, that is still stronger than Final Form Frieza. Now you could say, well, I doubt he would be able to triple his strength each year, but I don't see a reason why not. Piccolo did it easily between the Frieza and Android sagas without a transformation, and each master Tien is trained under has let him increase his strength faster and faster, including King Kai. And so I think it's fairly easy to see the humans surpassing Frieza by the time Android 19 and 20 arrive in South City if you actually calculate it and don't merely go by vibes or thinking power is addition and not multiplication or exponential. Before we finish the video, however, I do need to touch upon something that people often cite to showcase the humans are weaker than they are. The infamous Gero door, or the huge steel door that blocked the Z fighters from entering Dr. Gero's lab. When the fighters discovered it, in the manga and anime, we see Krillin and Tien attempting to break it open physically, but they cannot. Meanwhile, we see Piccolo telling them to stand aside so he can break it down, but he is interrupted. Then a minute later, it is Vegeta in base form that breaks it down. Now, I don't think anyone would say that Tien or Krillin are stronger than Piccolo, but what about Vegeta in his base form? If the Earthlings are Frieza's strength or above, does that mean base Vegeta must be 2? And if that is the case, doesn't that mean that Vegeta in his Super Saiyan state is 50 times stronger than Final Form Frieza? That seems a bit much, and so people tend to include this as good reasoning as to why Tien, Yamcha, and Krillin cannot be Frieza's strength. However, this fails to acknowledge a few key factors. Firstly, Vegeta's main gains through strength throughout the original manga has not been through training. It has been through either his naturally high battle power, his Zenkai boosts, or his transformations. Even when he trained in the hyperbolic time chamber or room of spirit and time, his main goal was not to increase his base strength, but to acquire a new level of transformation, culminating in his ascended Super Saiyan form. Vegeta has never, in the entirety of the series, become stronger than someone else merely through training to increase his base strength. Not in the Saiyan saga, not in the Namek saga, not in the Android arc, or Cell with the hyperbolic time chamber, and he also failed to do so in the Buu saga against Goku, hence why he allowed himself to become Majin. And so, though Vegeta has consistently been more powerful than Tien, Krillin, and Yamcha in his base form until Frieza, that has always been from either being naturally powerful and or Zenkai boosts. As you know, I touch upon this in my training and power video, where I compare Goku and Vegeta and why Goku tends to come out on top. It's not because Goku is just better or more gifted, but because Goku has the training fundamentals and the techniques of various masters to pull from, whereas Vegeta has never had that, and so he can't get as much out of training as others, even the Earthlings. If Vegeta is slightly or even twice as strong as the humans in base form during the Trunks arc, give them 3 years of training each, and the humans would come out on top due to their training techniques, at least while Vegeta retains his base form. But if that is the case, how come Vegeta blew open the door and the humans could not? Well, you need to pay attention. Krillin and Tien, along with everyone else's main goal, was to stop Dr. Gero from activating androids 17 and 18. In order to do that, they needed to break down the door. But also, they did not want to simply blow it open because that might rouse the androids that they want to keep in stasis. And it is only after Krillin and Tien attempt to open it physically does Piccolo say he will break the door down. And you need to notice that Piccolo says so by pointing his palm at the door with a ki blast. As you should know, ki blasts tend to be stronger more easily than punches, at least. It's much more quick and easier to power up a ki blast, hence why Piccolo says he will do it that way, and Vegeta does do it that way. There is no indication that either Vegeta or Piccolo could break the door down physically, or that Krillin or Tien could not break it down physically if they wanted to be reckless about it. However, even if Vegeta could break the door down with his hands, his goal is different from everyone else's. He wants to fight Android 17 and 18, and so instead of being delicate about it, he blows it down without hesitation. Not because he is stronger, but because he is reckless and does not like holding back. It's the same thing in the World Tournament Saga right before the Buu Saga, when everyone is holding their punches back at the punching machine, but Vegeta does not do that. He just breaks the machine entirely with a punch, full force. So, on that end, you need to realize the varying factors that go into a scene rather than just go, oh, these characters could not do X, this must mean Y, when there's more to it than that. Anyway, I wanted to make this video to respond to people disagreeing with me during the Android Saga Power Level video. I hope you liked it, or at least thought it plausible. Also, I want to say that I am making a new goal for the channel. I couldn't get 100 patrons by the end of the year, but I will try to get 100 before my next birthday, which is in about 3 months from the making of this video. Let's see if we can get there. If you want to help me, the link to the Patreon is in the description below. It would be super appreciated. But even if not, no big deal. And I also want to thank you for liking, commenting, or sharing. Subscribing too would be super cool if you haven't already. If you think I deserve it at least. Alright everyone, have a great day.